Welcome back to the podcast. We have a special guest. I know I say that a lot, but this is a really special guest because this is one of mine and Marley's former coaches. I think it was like was it 2 years ago, Em?
2021.
3 years ago?
Yeah. Summer of
Stop.
2021. Yes. July, I think Marley signed up. And then August, you signed up.
3 years. Well, that's gone really fast. I thought it was two
Like, I
years.
can't think of Marley without thinking of you, like vice versa. Like, you guys are like a package. Okay.
We joined ourselves at the hips accidentally, and now we cannot separate. So
Yeah.
But this is Em Haas. She is one of our coaches, and honestly, a person that we always go back to and look at her content and read her content. And I'm going to say something first that's kind of unrelated, but definitely still related. I don't think you realize this, but even 3 years later, we are thinking of things that you said that maybe were not like didn't apply to us then, but now it's like, oh, now we know what she was talking about. Like, oh, shoot. Boundaries is one of the things that I can think of for sure. Like drawing boundaries. Because for a long time it was like, we don't need boundaries. And then it was like, oh, shoot. Wait, why do we not have boundaries? And
Yeah.
so that's one thing that plays over and over in our head. But there are so many things. Like, I wish I could give you a whole list of things that have come up over the 3 years. And like, we're not in your programs right now, but your words and the things that you taught us and the things that you tried to like prepare us with mentally and emotionally and like business wise, they still come up. And we're like, dang, Em told us that a long time ago. A long time ago, she told us that we would come to this point, and here we are. So
Mm-hmm.
I just want you to know that.
Oh, I love that. I love you too.
We love you too. So now that we're okay, well, you've heard my love fest on M, but M is a business coach. She was our business coach. We still look to all of her content for lots of things every day. But I want you to introduce yourself as I want you to tell everybody what you do and how you got into business coaching.
Oh, okay. So I think business, like labeling myself as a business coach, I think is just like if I had to label myself, like that's what it is. Because even since you guys have been in my world, I'm just realizing that, like, as much as I nerd out on strategy and helping people grow and scale organically through Instagram, I really think like my life's work is really people seeing themselves and their work and what they do as a big fucking deal. And that obviously showing up in the quality of the strategy and like everything after that, like client by client by client, everything that I teach them just truly takes off after that. And I think that it's very easy to lose that. It's very easy when you log on to this fucking platform or app. Can I curse in here? Or like,
Go for it.
I mean, it says rated R, so so like anyway, I just really think that it's that, and it's really just being able to build a personal brand alongside a business without making everything that happens through the business mean something about you and be taken personally. And when my clients are really able to separate the two and like how they feel about themselves is super rock solid, like no one can F with it, like it is just is what it is, it makes like growing and scaling so much easier and less of like this up and down, like emotional kind of roller coaster. And you truly like take your power back. And I really think that that's why, we were talking about this before the podcast started, like why there's been so many wild things that have happened, like in my personal life, like with clients, like here and there, where my business never wavered and like the quality of my programs or how I showed up because I've been able to keep those two things really separate. And that's what I love doing. So how this all started was, honestly, I was 16. I started off by like going on a little diet. I was like, whatever. I was just feeling the pressures of being in high school, I guess, and everybody like referring me to like my, older sister's younger sister. And she was like ninth in her class, super academic. And Em was like chasing boys and being in the art room. Okay. I was like, you're a nerd. Like, okay, like I'm gonna do my thing. I was into clothes, boys, like, and I was really artistic and was really good at that. And so I was just very creative. And so like I felt right away that I was like letting my parents down, even though that was nothing they ever said, or like, that I had all these like huge shoes to fill. And so with that, I turned to obviously manipulating food and exercise as a means of control. And it started off by cutting out one meal and then being like, oh, like I'm losing weight a lot faster. Like, and then I got addicted to that. And I think there was somehow, either from growing up or whatever, there was a lot of like this idea of, oh, if I'm smaller, I'm more important or I'm valued more. And so quickly, I lost almost 50 pounds in the course of like 4 months. By the end of the summer, I was 89 pounds, like same height as I am right now. And when I came back sophomore year, like people didn't even recognize me, who were like childhood friends and people I grew up with. So very quickly, like obviously I needed to recover, or they were telling me like your dreams of going to fashion school in New York like just aren't going to happen. Like your parents are going to plan a funeral, like you're not even going to graduate. And they had to be that hardcore with me to get it through my head, that I wasn't going to get away with it, or like making up weird excuses that I had digestion issues and all this stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I don't want to go to a recovery center where they hook you up to feeding tubes and you don't have a life. Like basically, like you're treated like a little kid all over again. So I recovered on my own. I found weightlifting. And throughout college, I was just like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to design workout clothes because, like, I feel like powerful and with these muscles now. And I found this balance of like looking strong. And, I was going through this like mental and physical transformation. And I was just like, all right, like, I'm going to use Instagram and just start like showing my journey. And so I started posting like my progress photos, what I was eating or whatever. And I was like, okay, like I'm getting really into this. Like I hired my own coach at this point. And one day I just asked her, like, I'm not trying to be nosy with your income here, but like, is this like your full-time thing? Or like, do you do something on the side? Like, and she was like, no, like this is totally my full-time thing. We have hundreds of clients. I have 9 assistant coaches. And I was just like, what the fuck? And this was like circa 2014, 2015. So
Mm.
this was like the infancy of online coaching. So it was always now in the back of my head. Like as I was getting all this fulfillment from like responding to comments about my anorexia like story and what I was doing now and whatever, I was like, wait, like I could maybe like, okay, like I'm gonna put that in the back of my head.
Mhm.
In case this like fashion thing doesn't work out. But of course I was terrified. Like that was a very hard and expensive school, the middle of New York. My parents like put me through, like I'm very grateful for that. I don't have any student debt or like anything. And I got picked up by Nike senior year. So I'm like, I kind of talked myself out of that idea. I was like, no, like this is the best company in the world. Like I'm gonna go work for them. So I worked for them and Under Armour. And by the time I got to Under Armour, I was still like posting, building a following, like, and online coaching was now becoming more and more of a thing. This was now 2017. So one day I'm eating my little grilled chicken salad, like answering Outlook emails, and I'm listening to this podcast. And it was a fitness influencer online coach I'd been following. And she had her business coach on. And he's like, I help fitness coaches make 6 figures online. I fucking dropped my salad fork. I was like, you can't get me out of this jail cell. Like, who is this guy? And I like go onto his website and I book a sales call, but I had no idea what a call was.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking this guy's going to tell me whether or not I'm going to be a good coach. Like, I had no fucking idea. So I tried backing out of this call 5 different times. And I was just terrified, scared, intimidated. And the call setter, who later actually became my business coach a couple months later, he was like, do you want to become full-time online or not? Because the person who would do anything to be on this call. And I fucking went 70, like 75, 80 miles an hour, like home, took this call, and I basically had to dig up savings bonds from when I was a baby to pay for this program. And yeah, fast forward, I really mastered sales, niching down who I was talking to. I continued to tell my story, like value after value content. And I got great results for my clients. And so I walked out of corporate in October 2017 before I had even signed any clients. I was like, fuck this shit, I'm going to figure it out. That was a fun phone call to mom. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So then later, it was within the first 18 months, I was at 20K months. I loved it. But then, I just started getting asked to be in these business coaching programs as a guest. And they were like, how the fuck are you booking this many calls? Like, you're not running ads, you don't have a
Mhm.
website. Like, what are you doing? And I was booking like 10 to 15 calls a day. Like, I was just like so good in the DMs. Like, I was very conversational, I was genuine. And so, yeah, I was getting asked to be a guest. Their clients were then coming to me and trying to like hire me. And I'm like, listen, this isn't like what I do. But after these calls, I found myself like, I was kind of like blacked out on these calls. Like, I was just so in it. Like, I mean, you've seen me on
Yeah.
calls. So yeah, and then my best friend wanted to leave corporate, and she wanted to become a mindset coach. And so I helped her leave corporate 5 months sooner, sign all these clients. And she left in 2019. She's still full time to this day. She's never had to go back or anything. And I was just like, okay, sign after sign after sign. And then I started getting nightmare clients as fitness coaching
Mm.
clients. And that was even more of a sign. And I was just like, okay, like the universe is practically slapping me in the face at this point. Like, I just need to do this. So in M fashion, literally it was like a fitness post one day, very next day, now I'm a business coach. Like, I do not roll out the
Like
red carpet.
whiplash.
Yeah, there's like no parade there's like a relaunch or any of this rebrand like crap. Okay. It's like change bio, go live.
Mhm.
Like, now I'm doing this. And so, yeah, it was a wild, crazy journey, but I pivoted in October 2019. So,
So I know this about you, but in case someone can't hear this in your story, you are a very much a decide and go kind of person. Like
yeah.
you decide and you move and you don't force your clients to be that way, but like we see how it changes you and like changes your business and changes your clients. And so, I mean, we want to decide and move too. It's like it's a cause and effect situation.
Well, think of how you have to feel about yourself, though, to move that quickly.
Yeah.
Like, there's always just been a lot of self trust. And I mean, this sounds a little like dramatic, but like, there's no reason with how small I was, how my heart rate was 35 beats per minute.
Oh
And
my
I was
gosh.
going out on runs, I was getting on the elliptical, I was like sneaking off to work out. Like, it does not make sense that I'm here. Like,
Mhm.
so I just like that alone, I'm like, I got to make the most out of this while I still can. And especially last year when my best friend passed away, she was such a mission driven, like giving value every day, like kind of human. And, her mission was cut in half, like short. And I mean, that was like even more of a wake up call of like, I really got to make the most. So I don't hesitate and overthink things because I just think like, what's the trade-off that you sit there and wonder what could have happened if like you did move on it, and like kind of this like mental masturbating crap that we like go through, or are you just gonna like move and figure it out and like get better as you go? And yeah, so I mean, I drive my team crazy. Like, I'll blow my nose, think of an offer, and I'll be like pre-sale like on my stories. But yeah, I love it, I love it.
So, yeah, no, it's think just staying in that place where you feel like you should make a decision, maybe you've made the decision, but you haven't moved yet. It's agony. Like, it's mental space that you are taking up that shouldn't be taken up. You're just wasting you're wasting mental energy and you're wasting your time. And also, there are other people who are waiting for you. They may not realize it, but they're like waiting for someone like you to show up and to be the person that they need. I know that you cashed out, was that program $5,000? Do I remember that correctly?
Yeah, the savings bonds added up perfectly to 5K.
Yeah. So you scrounged up $5,000 to go into this business coaching
That I didn't have
that
technically,
you did
right?
not have. And
And
so
I
and
went through
then
that program and didn't sign one client.
I wanted to talk about that because you
Yes.
put something in your, I think it was a post today, either today or yesterday, about going into like investing in a program or investing in coaching. And you go into it with a certain mindset, like, I need to get this exact money out of this, or I need to get this exact thing out of this program. I want you to talk about that a little bit because Marley and I talk about an ROI in so many different ways. It's not always a financial ROI. It's,
Mhm.
I mean, it could be financial, maybe. It could be like time and energy you get back. It could be just like fast forwarding
Yeah,
so
yeah.
much faster. Yeah, like there's so many things that you could get out of it, but there are two different mindsets that you can go into with it. I
Mhm.
want you to talk about those.
So, I think going back to 2017, I mean, I was just a little worm. I did not even know like what I was getting into. Like I was new to commitments, but I was just saying this to my mom. I was like, here's what always blows my mind though, is that like I was never a person, I still am not to this day, where like if I didn't quote unquote like get something or make X amount of money or whatever, I would never think to myself, oh yeah, I just use this person's time, resources, whatever. Like let me try to get my whole money back. Let me
Mhm.
like, put it all on them. Like, I just never thought that way. And I don't know why, or if it was the way I was raised, or it's because my parents followed through on everything they committed to. I don't really know. But like, that was never really the issue. It was just me walking into an investment going like, all right, I like respect this person. Clearly I'm not doing something correctly, or they have something that I don't. So like let me like do everything to a T, right? To the point though, where it's kind of like when you fall too hard, and I said this in the post, into like a romantic relationship,
Mhm.
like you just all of a sudden say you like camping, even though you're like not a granola person. Like you like say you like a type of music or whatever. And like it just because you really want to make it work. And then when you guys break up or something doesn't, whatever, it doesn't turn out, you don't even know like what your favorite movie is. Like
Mhm.
you don't really know who you are. And that's kind of what happened, I think, during that investment. I also think, though, if I was being real, like, I mean, whenever I would take a sales call, as soon as somebody would have an objection, like anything that was uncomfortable about getting my business off the ground, I was
Mhm.
like avoiding. Like, I wouldn't touch with like a 10-foot pole. So when someone had an objection, I was like Lindsay Lohan in Parent Trap. Oh, like the connection, I can't hear you with like a fucking rapper. Yeah. So like I was just like, yeah, like not willing to do the hard stuff. And
Mhm.
obviously, I think that was a big wake up call when I went to the live event at the end of the program and people were like celebrating all these wins. And yeah, like as much as I could try, I think the easy thing is like, oh, they have it and I don't. But like that wasn't true, obviously.
Mhm.
It was just like, no, you're just not willing to do the uncomfortable shit, but there will come a day when that stuff isn't uncomfortable anymore.
Right?
And so recently though, I think it was when I hired my now mentor one on one. I hired her last September, and so I was still in the thick of like a very difficult personal
Mhm.
year. There was just every extreme emotion you could possibly feel. I was financially taking care of somebody for 10 months. I did not sign up for that situation, but I was kind of forced into it. My best friend died. I had 4 back to back nightmare client situations, like people poaching my other clients behind my back and me having to like address it, like shit that was just so off the wall.
Yeah.
And then two friends of mine who had been friends with for years just like disappeared, started a business with my ex, and now one of them's dating him. Like just like kind of like again, I would be on season 10 of my Netflix special. So when I hired my coach, I was almost like I didn't have the emotional capacity to be this like spontaneous, fun, creative M that I usually am because I was like, if I do something new and it doesn't work out, I can't take that kind of like rejection, disappointment, whatever right now because I'm experiencing it on like all different levels behind the scenes. So I just stuck with what always worked. Like I continue to relaunch certain things, I continue to just sell like programs that I always had. And so when I hired her, she was very hands on. She's like as hands on as I am with my clients. And I hadn't really had that in a while in
Yeah.
like mentorship. So I was just like, okay, like I'm going to follow everything to a T. And what I didn't realize was that reaction that I had to wanting to follow everything to a T. And like, to the point where it was like we'd lay something out on a call and I would like immediately put pressure on myself that I had to like blow it out of the water, do it in that exact right way. And that's not normally how I treat mentorship. But I think where it came from was I just lost a lot of self trust last year.
Yeah.
Like, I got myself into situations where I like really thought the person was amazing, like, in all of them. And they either disappeared, went away, like betrayed me in some way. And so I just really like walked into this year, like, not really fully having my own back a lot. Like it was
Mhm.
like, no, I gotta like double, triple check with my mentor before I go and do something or sell. And that just like wasn't me. And I immediately recognized it. And I just said, like, I can't continue to like treat our relationship this way. Like I'm calling myself out. And yeah, so like I started therapy like a couple months ago. I think that helped. It was well overdue. But like I started that, and her and I have now found this balance, which I think it takes like a maturation to get to the point where you're taking ownership for that and not blaming it on the mentor or the investment because it wasn't her fault. She was just doing her job.
Mhm.
And we had never worked together like that. So she didn't know what I was like or what was normal for me. Right. So I just think that's what it took, and just a very transparent conversation of like, this is what I'm used to. Like, where's the gap here? How do we come back to this like harmonious relationship? And what it really was me coming to her now with my ideas, what I want to do, like whatever, and not being afraid to do that. And then like sometimes like doing things and not telling her and like
Mhm.
challenging myself to do that. And then she would add on, like, here's how to make it better, more scalable. Like, here's what we could delegate more, like, whatever. And so I think it's recognizing what someone's skill set is that you either don't have or is a little bit weaker for you. And kind of like understanding that sometimes that can be the investment. Like,
Yeah.
if you're someone super creative, maybe you're coming to them for like the systems and back end. Like, it's like kind of just a dance of like
Mhm.
what it's really going to work. But it's like never losing your voice. Like a mentor should really just amplify you. And yeah, so I mean, that's the two different
Yeah.
situations, but yeah.
I heard someone a few years ago say that like every experience, especially in business, but like every program you buy, every coaching program that you're in, every like conversation that you have, client that you have is another link in your chain. And so it may not be what you feel like you need today. It may not feel good, but it is like building this whole long chain that is going to get you to where you want to go in your business. And I feel like you've had a lot of links. Like you created that in us, actually. So I was like, all the things that we have thought about or that we've been able to work through, or situations that have come up where we're like, shoot, we don't know what to do. Wait, what did M tell us to do 3 years ago? Like, we weren't able to use that information 3 years ago, but like we have it and
Mhm.
it's useful. Like, there was so much that was useful in that time, and then we, like, filed other stuff away for when we needed it. We didn't know if we would ever need it, and, like, now we're at a point where it's like, "Okay, we need to really get serious about this." So, I think that, like, you had the space, you had created the space for yourself to go through all of those changes that sucked really bad. Like, you had given yourself the financial space to be able to do that. Do you think that, like, even 3 years ago, you would have felt, like, financially safe to just kind of tread water?
I mean, 3 years ago, the problem with my business and I think what changed was when I came out with the mastermind, like, a lot, because that just, like, set the tone of me, like,
Mhm,
prioritizing long-term reoccurring income without me being this, like I'm sorry, but, like, bitch and slave to
yeah,
one-on-one. Like, it was just
yeah,
constantly like, it was so I was so used to, like, replacing income constantly instead of,
mhm,
like, stacking it. And I think I was in the infancy of that when
mhm,
you and I connected. And so, yeah, I was having these really big months, but, like, it wasn't like it was like, okay, really big for the next, like, 2 months, 3
mhm,
months. Like, I was still building it to the point where it was like, "Oh, this is, like, the next year now." So anything like new sales or, a new program or whatever is only gonna add to this.
mhm,
So here's the thing though. I've definitely before that, I coulda like, I could have definitely taken the time 3 years ago,
mhm,
but I think the wake-up call really it wasn't the strategic side of money. It was in 2020 when I went through that breakup and I went to Santa Monica for 8 weeks, and we were just separated, not talking, but we still had, like, 6 months in our lease. I had, like, my lowest cash month, like, so far that year. So, I mean, back like, then, like, yeah, like, a 20K month that year was, like, really low for me with, like, my investments and
mhm,
expenses and every what I noticed though was that the reason why it was so low and also, yeah, like the strategic side of it is I didn't have a lot of reoccurring was because I had placed all of my worth around where my business was in every single second. Like it would be like how many people DM'd me that day, like that week, where sales were for the week, where sales were for the month, like,
mhm,
and it was like I didn't feel deserving of like going out to dinner or like taking time off or going out on a walk. Like it was so wrapped up in the external. And I think, yeah, like it led to a lot of like the reasons why that breakup happened. Like I think
mhm,
that I was everything outside of me, I was putting on a pedestal. And if that was like not so great or like whatever, I felt like shit. And like I didn't know
mhm,
who I was without it. And so I think that when obviously I lost the relationship, I was having my lowest cash month, that was such a gift because it allowed me to really be like, "Oh, this is like the work I've been avoiding. Like
mhm,
who am I without any of it, right? Like how powerful do I actually feel about myself?"
right,
And I had to come to terms with the fact that I really didn't like myself without that stuff and really do the work. And I mean, you met Renee and stuff, but like that was yeah, that was like such a transformative year. So I think that that built a lot of self-trust of like I just have this belief that the more I take care of myself, the more my business is going to take care of me. At that time, that was very hard to believe.
yeah,
Like because I didn't like taking care of myself because I didn't like myself.
mhm,
So I'm like, "No, I'm just gonna, like, try to make more money to the next because then I'll feel better." And it's a fucking endless chase. The finish line, you just keep inching it along because it just nothing ever feels good enough. So yeah, that's what I
What
have
do you see, like, you've had a ton of clients. What do you see the most from the women especially? Like, with their it may be their pricing, their selling, but, like, with money in general, what do you feel like you see? Maybe like what do you see the most with them? Maybe when they start making good money.
Okay. Sorry, but like right away when you said that. Um, I think a lot of people grow entitlement around
Mm,
money. And what I mean by that is, and that's also something I never understood, is that I've seen this, I think in the past 2 years, it's kind of been this trend of like when you reach a certain income level, all of the things that you used to do in the beginning, you don't talk about those things anymore.
mhm,
You also don't do those things anymore.
mhm,
So if you used to be really hands on with your clients, that's not cool anymore, right? Now you're like this untouchable
mhm,
human being who, I hate saying this, but like most business coaches who are at my level or above, like what's a typical call is getting on a call with them and they stare at you. They're like, I call it braiding each other's hair on calls. Like, it's like just kind of like a lot of conversations. And it's about like personal power and mindset and all this shit. And I just like, I'm at the end of the day, like, I'm like, I've had plenty of mindset conversations with you guys. Like,
mhm.
isn't it kind of a given that it's both at this point? But like, at the end of the day, we're growing and scaling a fucking business. Like, I want to see your offers. Like, I want to see what's going on in the business. I want to know the nitty gritty. And like, I've always treated it how I would want somebody to look at my business. And I just never like I never had a high cash month and then was like, "Oh, I'm going to create a masterclass about it." Like, no, I'm going to repeat those months and then yeah, maybe like I'll have a post about it or something. But
Yeah.
there was a lot of this like one hit wonder kind of like things with money and then people would immediately act like they were an expert in it. And then what happened was they would have this immediately program or masterclass or whatever, and people would get on and they couldn't even explain to you like what exactly they did
Mhm.
down to a T. It was more so about how they felt. And, I felt like I was hardly working. And like I've been on some of these fucking trainings, and it's just like, then people, yeah, might leave the training feeling better, but they're walking into that thinking I'm going to get a strategy. And
Yeah.
so how this relates to money and how this all comes back to each other is that person's entitlement or whatever of like, oh, all the shit that created the high cash month I don't have to do anymore, like it's just going to keep coming in, or them just immediately trying to be an authority. How it created this feedback loop of how people treat money and investments is that what happened was a lot of people in 2020 and 2021 made these impulse purchases when they were
Mhm.
stuck in their house, when they couldn't live their life, whatever. And they started buying these things thinking they're going to get something and got something completely different. And when they were inside the masterclass, when they were inside the program, and left feeling very bitter, left feeling very disappointed. And it's not that they stopped trusting the coaching industry, they stopped trusting themselves with
Mhm.
money. So it just kept going. And like, so my whole thing is as I was seeing this happen, I had a lot of people tell me, "You don't have to be that hands-on with your clients, like,
Mhm.
you don't have to really teach strategy anymore, like, you can just make them all passive programs," and then, like, like, I've had everybody try to pull me in that direction, and I just was like it never felt good to me. Number
Yeah.
1, to act like the results I have now, like, you can just have them. Like, that it should be more ease and flow and whatever. Okay, maybe it looks like that right now, but like that's the tip of the iceberg. What's
Yep.
underneath is the years of me showing up, giving value, like building a community, building an audience. And I've always stayed transparent with that. I never tried to act like it was just, it should just be this way, or I've always had this time freedom. It's just this messaging of like ease and flow and leaning back. And it's just like there's that, but there's also the masculine side of it of like, okay, talk about what you did for years to get to that point.
Right.
Like, so it's just a lot of smoky mirrors, and I just am not down for it. And so I am very transparent. I'm very like upfront with my audience about everything, including the uncomfortable shit. And I think with money, like the biggest thing for me is that I'm like, okay, like if people need to rebuild trust with themselves around money, I'm gonna talk to them like they're already aware of that. Like
Yeah.
that they know that that happened. And now it's like, so what I've started to use in my marketing and stuff is like you're smarter, you're wiser, and like you're better for it.
Mhm.
Because it's kind of like a breakup when you make a bad investment. It's like, okay, now I know what I don't want, or,
Yeah.
this is what I learned, but it's not in a way of jumping to the next relationship to look for that next person to tell you that you can trust somebody again. And
Yeah.
that's how a lot of people treat their next mentor, their next investment. That's not their job. Like, I'm not the rehab. I had nothing to do with that coach or their laziness
Mhm.
or lack of integrity or whatever.
Right.
So, like, I just think it's about taking responsibility and like pulling out the lessons. And with the entitlement thing, I think it's more so just going like, what got you to those months? You gotta keep it up. It might look like just a little bit more scalable way, but
Right.
people are pulling back too soon.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I don't know if that makes sense, but that's
No, it makes perfect sense, and I have several examples that popped into my head
oh god.
right away. When you first okay, when you shifted into business coaching and you started making really good money with business coaching, what are the first several people or what's the first help you got in your business? Who did you hire?
Oh god, this is not gonna be like you guys would never advise this if I hired you.
You
So
never know.
I know. This is just how I think. So I was really interested in working with morgues. Elise, I think you might know her.
Yeah.
She's from Canada.
Yep.
Fucking love her. Like honestly, that relationship was so invaluable. Like she was my first one-on-one business coach when I switched. But like at the time, like I could not afford to work with her. Like I'm
Mhm.
like I phased out all my fitness coaching clients. I was just starting to sign my first one-on-one and I'm like, all right, but I want to do anything I can to like make this happen. So I purposefully booked a sales call with her immediately after a sales call I was having with somebody who wanted to work with me one on one. And the exact amount of money that my first business coaching client put down, I immediately used to pay for Morgan. Like
Wow.
it was like the money was like I literally even specifically asked the girl like, "Hey, like can you pay through PayPal?"
Mhm.
And it was like, yeah, like, so, I mean, it was just really wild. But I remember I fucking showed up for that first sales call. Like, I'm like, she's gonna sign. Like, and
Right.
there was already like an initial relationship, but I definitely did that intentionally.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I worked with morgues. And then she like it went from her being my coach to like my froach, like my friend coach, I call her all the time. She came to San Diego and we just like really hit it off, and co-worked and all of that. And so yeah, like I really that I mean that was like my year with her. I feel like I didn't really invest in anything else. It was definitely like business mentorship first. So
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing. You may think that that's like not advised. We have thoughts on that. But like there's a difference between signing up for something and hoping you'll be able to pay for that, and then kind of like a calculated risk where you can look at your past and well, I've been able to do things in the past. Like I know that if I had, I don't know, if I had 3 clients, I'd be able to pay for that in full, pay it off, and move forward. But, like, this sign up and hope that we'll be
Yeah,
able to
yeah,
pay, that ain't it. That's I think that's where that mindset comes from of, like, I have to get my money back out of this so that I can pay for this or pay for whatever is next. One thing that I really, really love about you is your dedication to not only, like, helping your clients, but you're always growing yourself, and then you put that growth back into your clients. Like, you're always out in front, and then you turn around and you give all that information to the women, I guess, and some men who are behind you. It's like one of the things that I love most about you because you are transparent, but you're transparent in a way that, like, still protects you when you need to stay protected. Like, um like as a person, personally protected. But I think that's one of the things that I love about you. And in an online business world where everyone is like, look at my lifestyle, you could have this too. Just pay me and I can help you get this lifestyle. I don't see that. And well, I've been in your coaching, so like I know that's not you. But if I hadn't been and I'm looking at your content every day, that's not what we see. That's not who you are.
mm-mm.
And I
I mean,
love that about you.
well, thank you. So, are you saying from the sense of like, because I'm super transparent and not like, I'm shitting out rainbows over here on my private jet to Italy or what? Like,
Yeah, but you share the hard and the good. So, like,
yeah.
we wanna see the good because we wanna see what is available for us, right? Like, what is possible for us, and we want a human who's gonna be like, "Dang, that was hard." And, like, here's how you probably could do that easier or faster or better because what I just went through was really difficult. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and I think like I appreciate you saying that because I think there's definitely things I've shared this year, last year. I mean, I just was like, okay, like barf. Like I like it's like literally when you like text the person you like and then you like throw your phone across the room. Like it's been like posed like that. And I just think what I always try to do is not I think there's a timing to what you share. Um and I think that that's more of like a gut feeling. But like I think I always try to do it in a way of like, I'm not trying to act like I am the only person who's like going through difficult shit or did, or, so I don't ever want to come off like that, or like belittle or compare to like other people's situations. But here's the thing though, is that every time my mentors have opened up to me about like the most random shit. Like either they have just come into the mastermind or they've mentioned it in a voice note to me or something. They're like, yeah, like actually, like I really thought this offer was going to do a lot better, but like people didn't start buying till like 4 days in and they have like a red hot audience and like whatever. And then I'm like looking at their social media and I'm like, the fuck? Like it literally looks like, they're shitting out rainbows 24/7.
mhm,
So it was like the way that they got really hurt by clients who like just, treated a commitment like a Kleenex and threw it away. And, like so they've shared these things on calls and in Boxer, and my respect level, my connection to them, like it always went up after that. Like I never like was like, she's leading me, like she's kind of like a basket case, or like
right.
she like I've never thought that. I'm like, thank you, because like I haven't been through this yet, but I'm probably going to. And
Mhm,
that literally happened. I mean, it was almost identical, like sometimes the situations that they had been through. And at the time, I'm like, well, I've never experienced anything like that. But like,
mhm,
if I do, like, this is a great example of leading yourself or
yeah,
like dealing with the situation. Um, but yeah, it's very hard. We're in an industry where even you guys, like I I really care about the people that come into my world. Like I
Mhm.
know what's going on in their personal life most of the time. Like I've seen them get married, I've seen them go through deaths and breakups and big milestones in their life. And so it's very hard when that same person, I think money brings out who you really are. And sometimes it's just, yeah, a beautiful ending to a commitment. And it's kind of
Mhm.
like the mom sending off the kid to college. I mean, that's how I felt when you guys like ended in the mastermind. Like, I'm like, yeah, like the podcast. Like, I remember when you guys were just talking about that. And like,
Mhm.
so to see the growth afterwards, like, I don't feel like a relationship has to end just because a commitment does.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, people change when money is on the table. Like that's what I thought it was. I honestly think they just bring out who they actually are when money's on the table. And yeah, it's been very disappointing, I should say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm grateful to say I've never had a refund request in the 5 years I've been doing this and however many clients.
That's a big
Knock,
deal.
yeah, knock on wood because I don't want to fucking do it.
I'll do it with you.
Yeah, but like that, like I've never like yeah, I've only had in total 5 insane. So on average, that's like once a year. And
Yeah.
I've heard just crazy statistics. Like it's like 30% of your sales in this industry, like usually is like taken or thrown back in like
Mhm.
refunds and stuff or paying for like collections agencies and shit. And I'm just like, I have not had that experience.
Mm-mm. No, we haven't either, and I think the one thing that we have in common is we believe in people. Like, yes, you have to pay us to get coaching for the most part, but, like, we believe in we also know everything that's going on in your life. We know so someone's put it beautifully the other day. They were like, "You don't care just about someone's business, you care about their family also." Like how their business is gonna trickle into their family. I care about the people, Marley cares about the people and what the result is gonna do for your family, and I think that's the key. When you're concentrating on just how much people are paying you, that's when refunds kick in and people are like, "This is not what I thought it was gonna be." Because people can feel that energy. Money mindset is like transferable from person to person, even through the screen. You can you can tell when there are dollar signs in someone's eyes. So I think that's probably the huge reason why you don't get refund requests. Also, you hold boundaries and expectations. You give expectations up front. And I think that's huge because honestly, I'm going to tell you something. Every time that we start a program, we're like, okay, what expectations do they need to know before this starts? And who do we learn that from? We learn that from you. But clear expectations before you begin are how you avoid a lot of that in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, okay, I'm gonna go here. All right. So yeah, because it's rated R. Okay, so I have 2 thoughts about this. That I think a lot of people overlook. I think, and this is why all revenue is not created equal. I don't think that. I think that if you hate your clients, if you feel like you're auditioning for them, if you feel like you're trying to prove something to them, if you're their fucking doormat or employee, um, cool. You made X amount of money, but that's not a long term relationship. You know it's not. Right? Like, and are they really getting the most out of the investment if you're going into Voxer going, fuck,
Yeah.
like about to like answer their messages or get on a call with them, right? So, like, I think it's that. I think how somebody shows up in the sales conversation is how they're going to be as a client.
Yep.
1,000, like, it's literally been proven time and time again.
Mhm.
And I think that I'll never forget this, but there was somebody a couple years ago who came into my world, and this is like where I really just like was like, okay, I'm done overlooking this. she would, every single offer I came out with, she would ask me questions to the point where she started to repeat herself. She was asking so many questions and didn't even remember that she asked me the question. So I started to just not answer her questions. And I'm just like, all right, all right. Like I can't. And she would never buy. She would never buy. But then one day, I guess after I just was like not answering the question, she kept seeing me talk about it. She just pays for something without me, without DMing me or whatever. So I'm like, oh, okay, like cool, amazing. And literally, like, she had to keep asking me questions before she did anything as a client. Regardless of how much like I supported her, she had everything she needed, like did it like it was like yeah, like it was just very parallel the two. And so I just think that is a lot of what people look over. And I think like I'm just gonna say it. There's a post in the queue about this, but like I think there's a lot of toxic client coach relationships that people um, allow themselves to stay in like a lot longer than they should. And I think I've been in enough of them romantically, so I know what they look like. And yeah, like could spot them from China. So I think like it's a ton of love bombing in the beginning. Oh my god, I love you. I'm so fucking excited. You're amazing. Like they're creating merch. Like they're like just so and I think that there's some of that, but when it continues, then it's like pet names sometimes are added in there. Hun, love, babe, like and I in the beginning stages of my business when this used to happen and clients like this would come in, I would just totally look it over and be like, "No, it's just their personality, like whatever." Then it's like they say something kind of backhanded on a call or they like don't they like are late on a payment or they like there's something where they're trying to like and this happens a lot with my older clients who don't like that I'm younger than them.
Mm.
And I'm like so grateful that this is not in my world anymore. But like looking back, it was like to put me in my place or to be like, sit down, you're, 20 something and don't have kids, or sit down, like don't know like my stresses. And I'm like after these all ended, I'm just like, why did they hire me then?
Yeah.
Was it to like get out something within them or to like have this kind of like power play? But it was such a toxic, disrespectful, like kind of dynamic. And I'm just like, that's like not okay. And I have clients that come to me and they're in it. And I have younger clients that come to me and experience that dynamic.
Mhm.
And like I just like immediately got clear. Like I'm like, I just like that was a phase in my personal life putting up with it. I can't accept this anymore. Like
Mhm.
it's just like not yeah, it's not something to overlook. And so I have had a lot of behind the scenes conversations of clients like sharing this stuff with me and kind of like not knowing what to do about it. And I just think it's a problem. I think there's a lot of because I paid you, I own you kind of stuff. And then, yeah, you're now afraid of this person.
Yeah.
Or like, what if I do something wrong? Or what if I piss them off? And I always can call it out in my own clients because I'm like, they immediately make, if they send a voice note to the client listens to it and they don't answer.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying
Yeah.
to recall the message. Like they're like freaking out. Yeah. Like, and they're like, oh, like she listened to my message, but hasn't said anything. And I have a call with her in 10 minutes. And like,
Mhm.
and I'm like, you should not feel like this
Yeah.
about your clients. Like, so that's what I mean about these like toxic little things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if you've ever witnessed this, but I have a lot.
Yes, I have. I mean, I've let people go before. I've canceled contracts because my motto is not everybody's money is good money. Like, just because you're paying me does not mean, I mean, I've canceled people's contracts. I've lovingly released
Yeah.
them, and it's like, this is not a good fit anymore. It's not a good fit for either one of us. So, like, this is mutually unbeneficial for both of us, and I'm just going to go ahead and call it quits. So, yeah, I will take your money out of what my projections are really fast if I feel like it's not a good fit. So, I think that's really important to talk about though, because there's a lot of like, once you're committed, once you sign a contract, like, you see that through. That doesn't always have to be the case. We're gonna wrap this up because it's almost almost been an hour. I could talk for
No, I'm
probably 6 more.
long-winded. I'm long-winded. Sorry.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. They know that I could talk for probably like 6 hours. Um, for the person who is starting to see really good money in their business, I want you to give them, like, what's your biggest piece of advice about money and or money mindset, like, as that recurring revenue continues to grow?
I think a really powerful question to ask yourself that totally changed money with me is, if like we talk about attachment styles all the time in romantically. If you were to look at your relationship with money almost as if it was like a person, what would your attachment style be? Right? Because if you read the book, like I honestly tell my clients, read the book Attached, and like literally replace partner, boyfriend, whatever with money, because it is literally the same thing in terms of like how people experience money or whatever. So I think it's nothing to beat yourself up over. Like I am naturally very anxiously attached. Thank you, Father. But I am like anxiously attached. So I kind of carried this stuff over when I started making money. And so it was like anytime I was like investing money, I had to like fill the space to like get it back or like replenish it or whatever. Um, but yeah, and then there were stages of my business I had like avoided kind of like abusive um relationship with money where I wanted to get rid of it because I didn't trust myself with it.
Mm,
So I was like online shopping, going to Gucci all the time, like it was a candy store. Like, yeah. And so I feel like where I'm at right now and what you could work towards with badasses like Becca and Marley. So is a secure attachment to money where it's like you really understand like circulation and like
mm,
just, it's the balance and flow of like giving and receiving. And also, I think what comes with that is taking money off the pedestal.
yeah.
Like really not giving it all the power, all of your confidence, like even some of the hardest moments in my life and in business when I'm like, how the fuck am I going to make this work? Or like whether it was even like an investment I was making where I'm like, mother, like this is a trust fund. Like what am I doing here? Like, yeah. And I really thought, how am I going to do this? I just had kind of this like knowing. And I think you build it over time, like stacking evidence that you can trust yourself with
Mhm,
money. I always fucking figured it out. Like it was like always more than okay. Whatever worry or thought or whatever that would try to come in, it never actually happened. And I think like that takes work, like,
mhm,
focusing on the evidence that you have. And so again, it goes back to a secure relationship. Like, my boyfriend doesn't have to text me or call me for hours.
mhm,
And I'm not thinking like, who are you with? Like,
mhm,
or you don't like me or like
mhm,
that was like not always the case. Like I was like constantly on my phone and making it mean something if they weren't there. And it's like kind of like that. Like it's
Yeah.
like and I think it's also paying attention to your money and not being afraid to look at your numbers and like
Just about to ask you.
yeah, like I used to fucking avoid going to my accounts all the time, even when I was making a lot of money. Like and I was really like I'd never seen this much money up until this point in
Mhm.
my life. Like I was still afraid to log in and look. And I remember like even there were moments I was dating an entrepreneur and he would tell me how much was hit in his bank account and I would compare it to mine. And like it's like, yeah, there was a lot of ego like with
Mhm.
making money and I really don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's an addition to my life. It doesn't feel like it's my entire identity. So I don't have just because I understand how money works and also like I've really gotten comfortable with giving and receiving. I can go into my accounts and yeah, like there's parts of the month paying here, paying this,
Mhm.
paying that. And I'm just like, yep, this is how it works. And
Yeah.
like, so like, I'm somebody that's successful no matter what. So like, this,
Right.
I mean, this doesn't mean anything this moment in time about
Right.
me.
And paying attention to your money also gives you that evidence that your brain is going to need to back that belief up. And I think that's the part that people forget sometimes. Like sometimes your brain does need a little evidence in the form of like an actual picture of what your money looks like. Is it really as bad as you think it is? More times than not, it is not as bad as you think it is, no matter how much money you make. I'm going to end with this, but one of our clients said a few months ago, and this is like you said something. Are you good? Sorry. Are you dying?
Yeah, I'm like, what is like with my throat chakra? Okay,
Shall
so
I keep talking while you while you struggle? Um, she said, "You haven't helped me. You've helped me heal the money that I have right now, not the hypothetical money that might come in the future." And I think that's the point. Like the money that you have right now, like that's what we concentrate on to be able to have future money come in that you get to keep, that you can build upon. Um, I
and
can't
yeah,
remember
and
where.
start and stop treating yourself like you're a peasant in your business. Like this, like, oh my God, number one thing is that I didn't do, even when I started to scale my business, like I never paid myself ever.
That's a
Like,
post.
yeah, pennies. Like
Yeah.
I never did. And it was messy. Like I was like taking money from my business to like pay for everything and like clothes and like
Mhm,
trying to write it off and
mhm,
like stuff like that. And it just wasn't intentional. It wasn't
mhm,
organized and it wasn't, you know, and so I just think I now appreciate like obviously learning a lot from that time period.
mhm.
Um, but I think it's like releasing the shame around it. That's the only way you can move forward. It's like again, like I'm not here like you know dwelling on the years of these like frogs that I dated before I met my now amazing boyfriend. It's just like pulling the lessons without carrying the weight of that time that you took.
Yeah,
So
that's really good.
yeah, I'm gonna.
Yeah. Okay, well, I did say we were gonna wrap up, so I want I want everyone to know that I do remember saying that.
Yeah.
If you want to follow Em, we're gonna drop her Instagram under this, so you can go talk to her. Em is in her DMs. She's a real human. She talks. She is the human who's talking in her DMs. Go follow her and binge all of her stuff, and then come back and tell us how much you liked this podcast. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you,
Bye.
Em, for being here.
Of course. Bye.